Why did the GOAT college football head coach recently retire with more than enough gas left in his tank? Why did a head coach at a prominent conference, the Pac-12, well, used to be prominent, resign his position as head coach and move to an offensive coordinator position at another D1 program? And why would a Power 5 head coach resign his head coaching gig, take a pay cut, and move to the NFL as a position coach? These three coaches won't be the last to walk away from the head coaching positions in Division I NCAA college football. And I'm going to tell you why next. This is my take. This is QB Unfiltered. I'm Coach Keith Simons, and this is my take. The GOAT, Nick Saban, recently retired from Alabama, which surprised a whole bunch of people. And in this past week came out with the real reasons why he retired, and really was no surprise to me or anybody else who's an old school coach in college football right now. Saban said that the ways of the Alabama program that had been so successful in the past have changed. The players have changed. He called them entitled, and he said that they are now playing for all the wrong reasons. A guy like Saban, he just can't hang with that type of commitment, that type of attitude from the guys that he's coaching, but it goes much deeper than that, and we'll talk about that today in the show. Chip Kelly is the coach that was at UCLA, which used to be in the great Pac-12 conference. That conference is no more. The NCAA has disbanded it to make a super conference. Chip Kelly walked away from the Bruins head job to go be the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. Now, there's a few reasons probably for this move. I think that he was pissed off that the AD was floating out there in the coaching community that Chip's job was in jeopardy. The second reason is, and I was told this about 25 years ago, before LA became what it is right now. I was told 25 years ago, I was looking at a job out here in that area, and I was told by a bunch of coaches that said, hey, if you're going to take this job, you're going to have to live an hour and a half to 2 hours away just to feel safe, be able to afford a house, but also just to get out of the craziness that's Los Angeles. Now, obviously, Chip Kelly could afford to live anywhere he wants, but I think getting out of LA may have been another reason. But the biggest reason I think that he gave up the head coaching gig for the Bruins is that all he wants to do is just go out there and be a football coach and not have to deal with all the extra bullshit now that the head coaches have to deal with. Okay, Jeff Hafley is the coach at Boston College, Power 5 head coach who resigned his position and is moving to the NFL, as I said, to be a position coach. And I'm guessing for the same reasons that Chip Kelly and Nick Saban stepped away from their jobs. If you would have polled all of the college football head coaches a couple years back when this NIL thing was coming down the pike and asked them how many thought that this was going to be an absolute train wreck for Division I football, I would say that about 99.5% of the coaches would have said, yeah, this is going to be bad. What really blows me away is you've got two bodies that made this decision to do the NIL. It started with the Supreme Court. They passed it down to the morons at the NCAA. And those two bodies basically hatched the NIL and unleashed it on the college football world and really unleashed it on the head coaches and their programs. So you've got a third body now that they're going to bring in to try to corral the wild, wild west and get things with some set rules and just kind of simmer down the rampant, just out of control BS that's going on now with the NIL, and that is to bring in the U.S. Congress. Now, what do the Supreme Court, the NCAA, and Congress all have in common? Those are three bodies that have no clue how athletics work. They have no idea how competition works. And they have no idea how coaches and football programs work. But those three bodies are going to make the decisions on the sport of college football and the empowerment of the players. Okay, I'm going to run this scenario by you. You can choose any Division I football program across the country and plug yourself in as the head coach there. It works at any place in America, except probably the Naval Academy, Army, and the Air Force Academy. Every other D1 program, plug yourself in on this scenario. You're a head coach. The phone rings in the off season, and it is a kid from whatever school who's going to jump in the portal, and man, he wants to transfer and come play for you. Okay. And then he tells you, hey, my cousin's going to be setting up a meeting to talk with you about what my NIL demands are, and also to make sure that you're on board with assuring me that I have a starting position, and then we'll play the rest as it goes. So be ready for that call from my cousin. And you now, the head coach, think to yourself, this guy might be a pain in the ass. Okay, this kid shows up, the season starts, and you are beginning to think, this guy may or may not be totally engaged with what we are doing here football-wise. He may have other priorities on his mind, things like his bank account, sales for his merch shop, and which family member he's going to employ to be his PR guy. He's already got his cousin set up as his agent negotiator. These things weigh heavy on this kid's mind, and he may or may not be totally plugged in mentally to what you want him to do to help you win football games. You also come to believe that this kid may or may not be in the locker room at halftime of games. When you and your coaching staff are making adjustments and going over second half game plans and basically getting the team fired up or calmed down, ready to go out and play the second half of the game, he might not even be in the locker room because he may or may not be somewhere else on his phone checking out said merch shop sales and bank account numbers. Okay, we move a couple games ahead, and his cousin, the same cousin that knocked on your door a month ago, comes back to tell you, hey, this kid not going to be at practice the next couple of days because he's going to be away on location for a commercial shoot. And you think to yourself, wow, is this guy really worth it? Or is he really starting to be a pain in the ass? A week later, his other cousin shows up and knocks on your door to inform you that if you don't start throwing the ball more, this kid's going to jump in the portal after the season. And then after thinking about it for a tick or two, he says, but you know what, coach? Let's back up on that. What this kid's really going to do is he's going to stop playing right now. He's just going to quit for the rest of the season to save on his eligibility, if that's okay with you. And then when the season's over, he's going to jump in the portal and go play somewhere else. So during the season, you're doing what you always do with your coaching staff. You're recruiting high school players and JUCO guys to come in and fill the roster for next year's team, because you've always got to keep a steady number of guys in your program. You're also seeing who you can poach off of other teams' rosters, and you are re-recruiting the guys that are currently on your campus playing for you that you signed last year on National Letter of Intent Day that may or may not be thinking about jumping in the portal. And you're coming up with a game plan to keep them here on your campus by basically kissing their ass and trying to find more NIL funds to raise their bank account. At this point in time, you have to let one of your assistant coaches go and use his salary to hire a crystal ball reader to tell you whether or not the 5 quarterbacks that you have in your program are all going to be on campus next year, or if you have to go out and recruit a quarterback or poach a quarterback off somebody else's roster or recruit 2 or 3 or 4 more quarterbacks. Halfway through the season now, and you come to the horrifying conclusion that yes, indeed, this was a bad idea to let the players make more money than what the coaching staff does. And the problems that this presents are these. You got guys that are now going to play when they feel like playing, or they're going to opt out if they choose to do that. And you run the risk of your starting quarterback, who now was your number 2 guy. Now he's your starter because your number 1 guy quit to save eligibility and then jump in the portal. Your number 2 guy now is thinking about pulling a Jameis Winston and disregarding the plays that you're sending in and your offensive coordinator is sending in because he just doesn't feel like running those. And you're really nervous and debating whether or not you can push these guys to play hard and focus every week, because you may hurt some feelings, which will cause guys to jump in the portal and go. At this point in time, you're really going through some mental battles as to whether or not you should stay in character and coach to the level at which you're used to coaching, which is up here, being demanding, pushing your players, being honest with your players, or do you need to continue to kiss booty so that you don't hurt feelings because we don't want to have portal defections? You also are forced now to have extra staff meetings to tell your assistant coaches that anytime that they have a one-on-one player meeting behind closed doors, they have to frisk the player and make sure that his cell phone is sitting on top of your desk so that you know that he doesn't have it in his pocket recording the conversation, which he can put online. You're now losing sleep at night because you know that the program that you used to have that was built on culture of having 4th and 5th year seniors and releasing those guys out into the world, because you know as a head coach that only 1.6% of all college football players make it in the NFL. And what happens to the other 98% that are out there? And you felt really good once upon a time that the guys that you were sending out that weren't going to play professionally were going to be productive citizens. They were going to be great husbands, and they were going to be great fathers. And now you're not so sure about the guys that are leaving your program. Hey, congratulations, coach. You made it to a bowl game. Unfortunately, as we said before, you're going in with your number 2 quarterback because your starter is no longer on the team to save eligibility and has already put his name in the transfer portal. And then your pain in the ass receiver and your diva linebacker, both of which came to you out of the portal this year. They were 1-year mercenaries, have both informed you that they are opting out of the bowl game because they don't want to get hurt. They're afraid of injury, even though they just played 12 games this season and played all 4 quarters of all 12 games. Okay, the bowl game's over and the season's over, and you have to make another tough decision with your staff. you've got to let 2 more assistant coaches go because you've got to take their salaries, and you've got to hire a transfer portal coordinator, and you have to hire an NIL negotiator / lawyer to handle the players' cousins and uncles and agents, etc. Finally, a couple weeks after the season, you come home and tell your wife that the boosters are going to buy out the remaining year of your contract. The athletic director is going to fire you. Even though you went to a bowl game, he's not happy that everybody that you signed to come play for you last year is now going to be playing for other teams that you're going to be competing against next season. And because you live in a part of the country where you don't have the big donors and money guys, you can't attract all these kids, these great players with all this NIL money like the other schools that you're competing against. And you tell your wife, you know what, honey, I'm going to go get a high school job where I can do what I want to do, what I've always wanted to do, and that's just coach football. That's why Nick Saban is out. That's why Chip Kelly walked away. That's why Jeff Hafley walked away. And they're not going to be the only coaches. The NCAA, the Congress, and the Supreme Court, if they're still involved in this, better get this fixed. Okay, if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Be on the lookout for my take on North Carolina quarterback Drake May, and I'll be doing some more of my takes on the state of college football in regards to the transfer portal and the NIL. This is QB Unfiltered, and remember, always throw the ball short to guys who can score. See ya.